Bonjour! This week, I had Michaud Savage on the show, and he is a really good and interesting singer-songwriter composer who actually played live songs on the show for the first time. I've done that, and now I'm really wanting to do that more. So he told all about his artist journey, which is really interesting. He has been all over the world, and enjoy. Did you go to school for music?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I get, and I mean that as a compliment because when I looked at your site and I saw that, you've done, the things that I saw on there was that performance, No Matter, right?
With the Seattle Rocker.
Yeah. It was a really cool song.
Thank you.
And so that made me think, he and again, I mean it as a compliment, like there's a lot, because did you compose that?
I composed it and I arranged it.
Yeah.
I did all the copyist work for it.
I mean, it felt like that too, So what I'm getting at is, and I saw, the first time I ever saw you was with Gabby, and you told me that you composed some of that, and even
Let's clarify. I arranged
okay.
some of that. Okay. Yeah. She's got a really specific. Like she has her vision and like her sound like very clear.
Okay.
And it's still like pretty new and like working with her. I would say. Sure. Yeah. Like it's still within the first year.
Yeah.
And so for that it was sort of like, and she comes at it from a completely different side than what I do.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have all this formal training like I ended up acquiring over years.
Yeah.
And so it was like very much like trying to arrange like these like very, very well produced like pop tracks for guitar, cello, and piano and voice. We've ended up playing like those arrangements a few times, and I'm like, I might like to change some things.
Sure.
And so that's like also a thing.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify, those are not my compositions. Those are my arrangements.
Well, I remember that when I talked to you after that, though, I had mentioned, because there was a part in the song that it had a really cool rhythm to it. Like it had this kind of syncopated rhythm to it, and I remember like mentioning that, and you're like, oh yeah, because I thought you said I did write that or something, or maybe you just arranged that part. That was like the part you kind of arranged for that.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Occasionally I got a little bit of like license with things.
Yeah.
I wonder what tune that was.
I don't remember exactly. We're probably gonna get some radio signals from the amp, which will be good. Yeah.
It sounds like they're emergency broadcast testing. I love it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. It also could be. They found a new. What was it? They found that new. Solar system and planet a while ago. TRAPPIST-1.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but anyways. Yeah, so how did you, maybe let's just start with like, how did you even get into music, and then how did it get from, the place you started to arranging and writing music the way you do currently?
Yeah, that's actually a really funny arc. So my grandfather was a musician. He died this year.
Okay.
But he was a musician.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It's okay. He got me started on things.
Okay.
And, first it didn't really take, and then it definitely did. But in that interim time between it not taking and taking, I started like singing choir in school. Like I was in like 4th grade, I think.
Yeah.
Then I started doing band, and then 4th, 5th, and 6th grade I was doing. 4th grade was just choir, and then 5th and 6th was the both of it. And then I changed school districts, and I didn't really know what the hell was going on. And so it's just like. I remember there's like an after-school program, and I got something like 10 guitar lessons, and 8 of them like were delivered on, and then the guy had like a shoulder issue and he couldn't teach any more of the lessons. And then my grandpa was like really, he was just like a gigging player, like he wasn't a teacher.
Okay.
So going to him for help was like funny, because he'd be like, okay, here's silver bells, and I'd be like, wait, what's a D chord?
Yeah.
And he'd be having me play like these melodies, and I would like just try to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
And it just was like not really happening for the most part.
Yeah.
But But it was good, and eventually I got to a point where I could like sit and I could play with him.
Yeah.
And so it was like kind of, it always gave me something to work towards.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, that's a little bit more tangential to the whole process.
Sure.
So in middle school I started playing, and then really just kind of kept doing it. And then in high school, made sure that I kept playing, and I was in the school jazz band. And that guy was also like a great gigging musician and was not a great educator.
Sure.
He was a trumpet player, and he had like toured playing with like Ray Charles and stuff back in the day.
Nice.
So he was like he was hot stuff.
Yeah.
Like seriously. And could play. Like dude could blow. It was incredible to hear him like take a solo whenever like he would play with us. He left that because he got a gig touring for Sting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been a funny episode in his life because he like got into photography, but he was from New Orleans, and it was shortly after Katrina that he ended up going on tour with Sting.
Okay.
Because I think his family was like they lost everything.
Oh man.
And so he had to help them rebuild.
Sure.
Yeah. And that was also like my senior year of high school, I think. And around that time, so up until this moment in my narrative, like I had these 8 guitar lessons and these like situations with these sessions, let's call them, with my grandfather. And then like a friend of mine like took me to this party, and it was a crazy moment. It was like February, maybe January, February 2007. And I met people who would go on to be my first like artistic mentors.
Okay.
And it was the first time I ever met artists who were like my age, who were like, they were like 19 or 20 or whatever, and they were like, they had a cafe job and they played shows.
Sure.
And like up until that point, I was like, didn't really know anybody. Like I spent a lot of time at the Vera Project, and I was like stage managing, and I always had like really bad confidence about playing and stuff. So like I remember I played like an open mic for the Vera, and people were like, "You play guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "I had no idea."
Yeah.
Because everyone else was playing shows and I wasn't, so whatever. So with those people, there was this electro folk project, and then there was this noise group collective that I started playing with. So I was making like a lot of noise music and a lot of experimental stuff.
Okay.
And never, because I am an idiot, like didn't take seriously that I should like practice counting to 4.
Sure.
So I was like playing in these bands, and everyone was like, "Dude, can you just play the shaker for 16 measures? Like, can you just do that?" Yeah. So I was like sucking. It was good times. And then, I had like things in my life. It was like I graduated high school, and I was like in a weird, like the high school I was in was just like super, like great education. It was a private school. I had a scholarship, and I was at a private school, but culture that was just like very asyllogistic from what was in me. So it was just, there was, after 4 years of that, it was like this process of, sort of like rewilding myself.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Rewild.
Yeah, it was fucking wild.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I should go to school. So I got myself into Evergreen because I was like, very anti-establishment.
Yeah. And that's a good school to do that.
Yeah, and especially to like continue your rewilding.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah.
So, and there I started like my first band, which was like a freak folk thing, which I was doing.
Yeah. Nice.
It's called Millie Blackspoon III.
Nice.
Thank you, Olympia. Thank you so much for providing me that space.
Yeah, right.
And time.
Yeah.
And that was like a duo and then a trio, and then we had like I don't know, it was a thing. And then I got a scholarship at the end of that year, which financed a study abroad I decided to take in my sophomore year of college. And I I was interested in the role of music in the Shipibo tribe and their culture.
Okay.
And they're a tribe in the Amazon.
Okay.
And I had heard a lot of different stories about stories, and also like read a lot of things about how music factors into their cosmology and what they do.
Okay.
And so I spent a year studying that with those people.
Yeah.
And so I was in the Amazon, like,
wow,
trying to take in as much of that as I could.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that was, kind of a weird thing, because it's like the crossover from like experimental into freak folk and then into like studying Icaros and like stuff like that was like a weird linear progression that kind of made sense.
I bet, yeah.
And then coming back from that, and not really having a band and not really being sure creatively actually what I wanted to do. I studied like visual art, which was like super helpful.
Yeah.
Because that just kind of gave me a better understanding of like the evolution of ideas over time.
Okay.
Creatively and artistically. And it also like made it very clear that like music was something that I like was much more into and had a lot more aptitude for.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I have a similar story. I don't want to break this stream of consciousness whatsoever, but that's cool because we have that in common.
Let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
I want to hear about it. So I was in that I was studying that, and then I just started to really get into like 20th century, mid to late 20th century classical music, and it started actually. So when I was in South America, I went and visited a friend for Christmas in Buenos Aires. Okay. And it was this crazy thing because I was staying in this house with this woman who I just showed up pretty much unannounced because I was was doing whatever I chose to do. Sure. At my ripe age of 21, I think. Yeah. I just turned 21. Yeah. So I was I just showed up basically and kind of was living with these people, and I didn't know this, but there was the person whose house it was is a reputable tango singer. She just sang at Lincoln Center wow. A couple months ago, and so I got to see her up here because she also had time to fly over here. So it was this thing. So I was staying with her, and then with this friend of mine who was dating Pablo Veron, who's this legendary tango dancer who's still alive. And I knew nothing of this, and so while I was in Buenos Aires, I decided to stay for a few weeks. Okay. I stayed for almost a month, and got my first tango dance lessons, and then I was just hanging out at the house one day, and I put on this record, which was I think it was 0 Hour by Astor Piazzolla, and I was and I was listening to it, and I was just what is this? Yeah. And so I circled back to it coming out of that sort of visual art phase, and I was who was that guy, and what was this tango stuff because that stuff was so incredibly different from what I was focusing on in the jungle. It's just totally different worlds. Totally different worlds. And then so got into that, and then I got into Xenakis, and then I was super into Grisey and all these other late 20th century composers, and a lot of their work that they were doing involving the analysis of sound and how deeply they could explore it, and then synthesis. Which was I don't know, it's a very weird pivot to think about. Sure. But it felt very much I was continuing this journey into sound itself. Yeah. Because I think I mean it was I guess understanding sound and form. Yeah. And how people would frame it. Oh sure. Yeah. And then that pretty much took me through my senior year there, and I finally started to study composition. Okay. With a composer, kind of in a very evergreen style. Yeah, gotcha. And realized at the end of that year that I was like, man, I really like need to get some like more technical training.
Okay.
And so I applied to Cornish and I got in, and then like a week before school started, it was weird times because Occupy had been going on, and like there was like the housing crisis, and I was just like, I have no idea how in my life I'm going to pay this back.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Like, no clue.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. And so I didn't go.
Okay.
I just like dropped out before I started, like days before I started.
Yeah.
Which is like one of those moments where I'm like, wow, that.
Yeah.
What things would have been.
Sure.
And then there was this other really pivotal moment involving visual art. So that was like a September, and then I ended up moving out to Orcas Island because it's the only place I could find a job at all after months of trying to find any job.
Okay.
And this is like coming out of,
4
4 years of undergrad, and then like trying to do like a fifth year somewhere.
Yeah.
And I ended up on Orcas Island, and I just was like super isolated. And I was just like, this is like, after a year, I was like, I should go.
Yeah.
Like, this is a beautiful place, and there's a lot of great things here.
Yeah.
But I gotta go.
Yeah.
And so, and my friend was like, you can come crash my couch in LA. And I was like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And showed up and was, woefully naive about my whole context.
Sure.
So, ended up taking this job with this company who I'll say the name of the company now because it's whatever, but whatever, it doesn't matter actually. It's this art handling company, and they had me work some really crazy schedules. So one, they brought me on for like a short run because it was Art Basel Miami, which is, at the time, it was the second biggest art fair in the world.
Okay.
And so they needed extra drivers. And so initially they had me like doing stuff around LA, and then they like, remember there was this one night that was like kind of weird where they like booked me a ticket and flew me up to Seattle to drive a truck down to get there by like 8 or 9 a.m. or something. And I made it. So like, and that was after working like a crazy long day of like 12 or 13 hours or something, like in the sun. Yeah, and that kind of should have been the first sign.
Yeah, sure.
Because they would have us like work these shifts where we'd be on for 20 and off for 4.
Ooh, okay.
And it was very dangerous. Like, I fell asleep behind the wheel a lot.
Oof.
Yeah. And like, it was bad. But the experience of going to Art Basel and being a part of that experience was very eye-opening.
Okay.
Seeing what sold and what didn't sell and for what and how quickly.
Yeah.
And even like damaging some art that was like, personally, I thought it was so bad at the time, and even now I still look at it and I'm like, that was a trash fire of a work.
Yeah.
And like, we damaged it so badly that it looked nothing like the original, and it sold for the same amount. Like, it was such a ugly creation in this respect that you couldn't actually tell that it had been like completely damaged.
Yeah.
And I saw like what it was before. But it's whatever. Like, it's, yeah. And so that whole experience was just very eye-opening, and it was also this thing where they just kept pulling me on and on for more stuff, and I was like, as soon as I get back to Seattle, I'm just gonna stay there, because trying to figure this stuff out in LA, like, I just need to actually relax for a while.
Yeah, sure.
And I got back and got super, super sick.
Okay.
And that, and then coming out of that sickness, I realized, I was like, if this is what life is going to be in terms of jobs, I'm going to have a better musical understanding, and I'm going to take a year and do some really intense study.
Okay.
And make the most out of it. And I got myself into Cornish for that following fall.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, so I did that. And then, and that was great. And just kind of and so like, coming out of that, that's when, so coming out of that year, there was like this other, pivotal moment where I was in like this car accident while I was riding my bicycle, like on my way to Cornish for the summer for like a meeting with the soprano that I was trying to work with at the time. Yeah. And the summer job that I had at the time, like, I just couldn't do anymore. It was like a physical thing, and like I had hurt my back, and I couldn't move really. Like, I could sit, and I was like, I'd studied a good amount of classical guitar with Michael Nicola while I was at
cool.
Cornish.
Yeah.
And then, but I was like a composition focus.
Yeah.
And then I got a call and someone was like, hey, they need someone to play this restaurant, on Wednesdays. And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I got like, this, teaching gig.
Sweet.
And then that's just kind of how things that's like that car accident is like really what like flung me forward into
Interesting.
being a like gigging musician.
Interesting.
Because also, so like there's this car accident, and then the next day I get this piece of mail from Cornish saying that like the tuition's gone up, and like my federal aid was like no longer available all of a sudden.
What?
Yeah, so I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Like I can't walk.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I can't even, and the concept I had about my time is gone.
Yeah.
And then something else sort of presented itself. So that was like a really crazy thing. And then someone gave me a guest. Yeah, I had a friend working for The Stranger at the time, and they gave me a ticket to the Stranger Awards, and and it was like at one of the after parties for that I met Scott, and sent him over some like recent work that I had done for some local artists. And I was like, if you're ever going to do a new work show, please keep me in mind.
Sure.
And he wrote back. He's like, sure, I think we're going to do one this winter. And I was like, okay. And yeah, in that he also like invited me, and I was like, it would be great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was and so that was like the arc on that.
Yeah.
Just to fast forward a bit, there was I think it was like 2 or 3 years after that I got this message from this guy that I had worked with doing the art handling, and it was a group text to everybody who was on that trip, and I watched like the attrition, and it was like a very ugly attrition,
Okay.
Like people like being fired for vomiting on the job because they were like had sunstroke and they wouldn't go get us water. It was very bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
Goodness.
Jesus Christ, it was so bad.
Yeah.
It was a great experience though, at the same time.
Sure.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah, right.
So I get this group message.
Yeah.
And this guy is not the owner, but he's like, hey, I bet you're all pretty surprised to be hearing from me, but I just wanted to reach out and, let you know that the owner of the company was, working last night, and he was driving and fell asleep and drove into the back of another truck and died instantly. And that was like, and I remember I was like in the middle of like practicing some material for a premiere that night. Yeah. And it was like this piece for octet, and I was like the least agreed member of the entire ensemble. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
I really did make the right choice.
Yeah,
because I could be dead right now.
Oh, right, yeah,
like easily, like very easily.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh,
man, yeah, that's goodness gracious.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I made the decisions I did then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's like sort of like I think about like the phylogeny of how I got to that.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Very cool. So, how long is Cornish a 4-year program?
It's an undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They have bachelor's programs.
Yeah. I wish I could remember a name. I mean, I'm not going to look through my email, but I did have an interaction with someone who went to Cornish. And she was really nice to me, and the thing that was interesting is she, basically we were, like, working together on some songs, and she's going there. I lived on Capitol Hill. I lived on Thomas and Melrose at the time.
Okay, so on the right. Yeah.
And so...
You're, like, right next to it.
Yeah, it was really close. Yeah. And I always said, I knew someone else who went there. She plays upright bass. I don't know that she plays that much anymore, but she was fantastic, and so I was... And then I found out later that, like, Reggie Watts went there, and there's someone else, actually someone in Waterpenny who went there, too. And he,
What's his name?
His name is Pete. He's actually turning 50 tomorrow. Oh. I mean, he went there, a long time ago.
Happy birthday, Pete.
Yeah, exactly. But Pete he's a fantastic musician. He's a drummer, like that's his main thing. But he actually plays bass in our band, just because he can, because we already had a drummer. So he was like, sure, I'll play bass. And the fact that he's been able to do it so well has just been really impressive to me. That he could, take off the drummer hat and jump into that skill, which, you know, I can play bass, but I would not call myself a bassist. But another thing that I thought was cool is like I was mentioning to you earlier that I went back to school. I went to like a graduate film program.
Here?
No, in Nashville. And in doing that, that's when it's kind of partially just being stupid, but I tend to learn the hard way, and I've accepted it now, though. You know, like it's taken me this long to realize that that's actually the best way for me to learn.
God, tell me about that, because I learned that same way too, and I'm just like.
Well, so now I've accepted it, and I think it's important for me to embrace it instead of like
trying
beat
to
myself up about
it.
Yeah, because that's what I've been doing is, you know, and I think it's funny to call yourself an idiot, and it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, there's, you know, it's ebb and flows. But basically, what I learned, and the cool thing is, like, I learned that I really want to score films. I mean, that's something I still want to do.
Really?
You know, and I've had. Yeah, and when I say score film, I mean like kind of like Johnny Greenwood style of scoring a film, you know. Yeah. Although he can play more instruments than I can, so he has that advantage.
You ever thought about sending him an email?
I haven't, because I don't. Yeah, that's a good thought.
Be like, I want to do this thing that you do.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Well, that is like, you know, it is about who you know, and sometimes like someone's willing to kind of give you some advice. But getting to the point, you know, like the thing that you said that struck me is just that that's what I found too, is that music is actually my true love. Like I love that more than film. And so that was just like an important find, you know, to like find that I'm way more passionate about this thing than I am about film. And I still, like, the funny thing is I'm about to make like a music video. So like these things happen where like I've actually been kind of trying to get out of film, but sometimes it'll just happen where it's like, and I kind of like that, like, cause I still do have a passion for it. It's just not as strong as music. It's an art, you know. So I also think it's just important as artists to do different things. I mean, I just learned yesterday that Bob Dylan now doesn't even play music anymore. He makes sculptures now, metal sculptures. That's all he does. It's metal sculptures. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, he can do that. He'll probably get really good at it, you know? Like Jim Carrey's like getting into painting now, you know? He's like a pretty interesting painter.
Yeah, like Miles Davis, he got super into painting.
Okay.
He got like good at it.
Oh, I believe it. From what I know about Miles Davis, I think that if he chose to do anything, he'd get really good at it.
Like,
if he was like, I'm going to be a swimmer, he'd be, you know, it's like, I'll be in the Olympics in 5 years. You know, Tony Bennett also is a really good painter.
Really?
Yeah, he goes by a different name, because he goes by his Italian name. In painting, it's, Antonio something. But yeah, he's actually a pretty fantastic painter from the stuff I've seen. And the cool thing about that is I saw it as Antonio. I don't want to botch his.
Benedino?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's where I was gonna go with it.
Antonio Benetti.
Exactly. But I was just like, damn, that's really impressive. But I mean, yeah, I guess the thing with him that is to consider, not to demean him anyway, but he is just a singer. He doesn't play music, right?
Oh, come on.
It's kind of demeaning. Is that demeaning?
You're like, they're singers, not musicians.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but it is. That's exactly what you just said.
No. What I'm saying is there is a difference between a singer-songwriter. There's a little difference, because you just show up. You show up with the microphone, right? You don't show up carrying the instrument. I'm just saying there's a difference. I'm not saying I know, and I guess I like prefaced it by saying like I don't want us to be demeaning, and it did turn to be demeaning.
No, I know you don't mean to be demeaning, but it's this thing comes. So I get hired as an accompanist a lot.
Okay, yeah.
And the jokes about singers, man, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them are very true sometimes. Not all the time.
Sure, yeah.
And not all true.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're very true.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, but it's like, and I guess actually like this is like really like where like what I want to say about it is that if we can allow that permission for singers to not have that integrity, then we allow for our own selves to not have that integrity.
Sure, it's a good point. It's a really good point.
And I would rather that singers, instead of, feeling marginalized because of like the nature of what they are or do, be like, well, actually, you can just keep going down that road.
Sure.
And it's going to take you somewhere.
Sure.
And there's more things you can learn if you want.
Sure. Very true. No, that's an excellent point.
And also like, but yeah, I mean like, and it's not like, he's not like a tenor. Yeah, I mean he's a tenor, but it's not like he's like a classical tenor, It's like he's a, what do you call it? He's a jazz singer.
Sure. Yeah.
Lounge singer. Like that's, that's just like his thing. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with it. Maybe, I think kind of, same for like Sinatra, but it's like, but I don't know, would you say that Sinatra's just a singer?
Well, so now that I think it's just partially like thinking out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret it, but now that you can turn it off.
I'm trying to turn it up. It's getting cold.
Oh, turn it up. Oh, gotcha.
Just keep my space heater right
Gotcha.
next to me.
Yeah. Please do. Well, I mean, I think maybe I said that and I was projecting in a way, because I think the thing is someone who's just a singer actually has a more unique quality than I do. And what I mean by that is I'm very scatterbrained, and I like playing guitar, but guitar isn't enough. I have to play piano too. And piano isn't quite enough, so I like to dabble at a bass, and then bass isn't, so I play harmonica too, it all started with the drums, and I just scatterbrained, so I started with the drums, and I learned rhythm, and then I was like, and then someone let me borrow a guitar, and I was like, oh shit, I can do, I can do that with a guitar. Cool, like that kind of like I can drum on this thing.
You can let it off. Yeah.
And similar to the piano. I mean, I just watched this thing, Little Richard. He is drumming on that thing the way he played rock and roll. What I'm getting at, what I'm trying to get at, is that singers can just focus on that craft and they can be exceptional. Whereas I can't say never. I don't want to say never always about anything really, but it's less likely that I will ever be exceptional at one thing because I like to do so many different things and be good at those things, right? So I think the fact that they can focus and hone in on one thing, I also kind of believe that everything is you can either call it work or hard luck. They can be a similar thing, but one thing like you got like to kind of weigh in on one of the things you mentioned. You were friends with someone who worked at The Stranger. You went to that award show, and then you kind of got in the ear of someone, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I dig this stuff," But so there is a lot, and that you could either consider that hard work, which you were willing to. I consider it hard work and luck, right? Because you were willing to put in the time to make good music, but also you were willing to like put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I think I'm good enough to be in this show." Like, cool, I am. Sweet, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you got to take the opportunity even if you're not ready for it.
Sure, yeah.
But also, I wanted to go back to something you were saying about like the sort of that like longevity of an attention span on like a thing, because like I totally like have suffered with that.
Yeah.
And the thing which I find, especially over years of like sort of focusing on a certain thing, is you keep reaping what you sow way after you sowed it. And so you got to make sure you're sowing what you think you're going to want to reap.
Ooh, yeah.
In a totally different phase of your life.
Okay.
And I'm just it's so hard for me to try and like conceptualize and feel good about. But it's also like you just gotta like be true to you. So a really important moment in like my musical evolution was in South America. I had a partner. I don't know. We lived together. We were lovers. It was a thing.
Sure.
It was a very complicated, stressful thing.
Yeah.
And whenever I would play the guitar, they would very quickly get up and leave the house. And whenever I would sing, they would run out of the house. Like, run.
Okay.
Would go to like their anger 10 level. And so like, I had this like freak folk band in like the year before that and was singing all day. All day. I used to sing so much. And I just like I stopped singing, like flat out stopped singing.
Okay.
And then also like stopped playing guitar for about a year.
Okay. Wow.
And that was like hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also like when I went into like the visual art thing because I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then I just realized how much I missed that. And that's also like what helped me to just like really like be like I'm gonna get good at the guitar. And I got better at it. I got a lot better at it.
Absolutely.
And it took me like that was like a while ago.
Sure.
And only in like the last like year and a half have I really come back to singing.
Okay.
And this was like a while ago.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm just really happy.
Yeah.
That I'm like able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to reap what you want to sow. Because it's like the thing which is interesting is like I think that on some level I knew that I was broke inside from that experience with my partner.
Yeah.
And it was going to take a long time to rebuild the strength to try and heal myself.
Okay.
Or even to start.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, I can do instrumental things.
Sure.
I can learn theory.
Yeah.
I can study composition. I can do all this really abstract stuff, which is not using my voice.
Sure.
Because it's really like it is the most powerful instrument that for a human there will ever be.
Yeah.
And it's it's the most personal thing.
Right. Absolutely.
You've got.
Yeah.
Like even more than your fingerprints,
Yeah.
It's like way more than your fingerprints.
Right.
Yeah, so that's like a thing.
Yeah.
And also, I think I kind of like suffer from like a little bit of like an ADHD maybe type situation too, because like especially like when I'm composing, like, and I just had a breakthrough with this. Is like I will be at the piano and then I'll have the guitar and I've got like a loop pedal going and I'm like trying to record into a DAW or whatever, or just like hit record on my phone and I'm like, oh my god, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why am I like this?
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself and I'm like, what have I done today? With my very limited time.
Yeah.
What have I done?
Yeah.
And the breakthrough that I recently had is like and I've kind of always known this, but like I need structure.
Yeah.
Which as a freelancer is like an oxymoron that makes you want to laugh so hard that you can't stop crying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and and in that laughter you piss your pants for multiple reasons. But yeah, so I don't know, like this breakthrough which I recently had, because I have this concert in February that I'm a commission that I'm working on.
Cool.
I was just like, oh, like I need to like start with like the macro. And then work my way. I've slowly, or very like systematically work my way towards the notes.
Yeah.
Not really slowly.
Okay.
Preferably very quickly.
Yeah.
But it has to be systematic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Okay.
And that's like that. I feel it's like a huge like weight. Off of me because. Yeah, because it's like, do I play the piano?
Right.
Like, should I work on my drumming? Like, what should it be?
Right.
Do I work on my jazz guitar playing? Like,
Sure.
what do I work on?
Sure, yeah.
Like, what types of gigs am I trying to get? Where do I want to be? And that's also, like, actually, like, a real thing of, like, okay, like, what types of work am I trying to get?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I know that. So I think that is a tough thing. So I'm just kind of adding to that as far as like looking at the future sometimes can be tough because we need to be in the present, right?
Yeah, that's all
and
we got.
especially it is all we got. But especially like now that we're at this time period where everyone is glued to the flashlight in their face, and I'm guilty of it. Like I've actually like set a time limit on the time that I like will be in, Instagram or whatnot, because it's a time suck, and it's not productive as far as like I'm not writing music when I'm looking on there when I'm posting something, and so now so now I'm set a time limit. But I also you mentioned like reaping what you sow. So I think that there is I'm trying to kind of pay more attention to manifesting too. Like like because I mean that's the same thing as reaping what you sow, right? Kind of like so if you are paying attention to the things that you want, you want a certain type of show, whatever it is, once a year or several times a year, specific place, specific time, all those things. Like, but if you manifest that thing, like if you believe it'll happen, it will. I mean,
something will definitely occur.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to like trust myself a bit more in that type of thing. I mean, like some things have actually already happened, but it's I don't always trust myself. So that's the tough thing. Is like I think it's that I almost like self-sabotage myself a lot of times, because you also mentioned working on things, kind of being, with having ADHD and working on things, and you said something along the lines of like, something will happen, right? Like it'll maybe later on kind of thing. What did you mean by that? Like,
in terms of like working with the ADHD or what? What do you mean?
So,
there's a few multiple threads there.
Yeah, exactly. I know that's the problem, is I can't put my finger exactly on, because I it was just something I noticed you said, because you were mentioning when we were talking about being scatterbrained, and you said something you struggle with because you're playing the guitar, you're playing piano, you got a loop going, and then you're kind of wondering like, what did I do today? But if I remember correctly, then you said something along the lines of, but eventually that does get somewhere, because you are making progress. Like if you're kind of thinking about like, am I working on a jazz thing today? Am I working on a whatever? But no matter what, if you are putting in the work, then something happens, right?
It's your time.
Sure.
Wherever your time goes, wherever your time goes is where your time goes.
Sure. What's the show in February?
So I've got this commission. When is this going to air, by the way, or be like available for streaming?
Well, I mean, whenever I can. I can have it ready by.
Okay, but it's going to be sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, it can be when would you like it to be?
I don't know. I'll think about it.
Okay.
So I got this. How much? I'll say some things about it.
Okay.
So I got a commission from the Waivered music series. Okay. And it'll be a concert which takes place on February 29th, 2020.
Sweet.
And it's a collection of pieces that I am writing for that space. And since receiving the commission, what is my very intense personal history with that space that I didn't know existed. I've been in that performance space like for years and years and years, and I've loved it. And I learned that when I actually had some family who lived in that building.
Oh wow.
Yeah, for Seattle, it's a very old building.
Okay.
And then I also when the first house that I lived in is kitty corner to it.
Okay.
Which I didn't know, and there's a lot of family stuff which actually ties me to that space, which I won't get into. And if you'd like to know more,
okay,
come see the concert.
Oh yeah.
But to sort of shroud or to cloak my enigma in a mystery a little more deeply and present it with a riddle. Without there being a riddle. Probably use some Ritalin to help me stay on focus and make this more coherent narrative. Assuming that's what works. I don't know. I took like ADHD meds like one summer that I was on tour, and it was weird because I just started writing all these fugues, which is like these very circular types of music, and I was like, and then I was also like, I just got really into watching Mad Men, and I was realizing I got like super weird. Yeah, sure. Because I was just hanging out with Mad Men all day, and I was like, these are horrible people. Yeah, right. And now these are the only people I spend time with. And so now I'm emulating, Don Draper, which is a horrible person to emulate. Totally. Because I was watching that much TV. And where was I going with that? So there's a work for string quartet in 4 movements called "Child, Do Not Let Their Shame Become You."
That's beautiful.
Thank you. And another suite called "How the Light Gets In."
Okay, cool. Yeah. Those are really intriguing titles. I take it that you take titles seriously. Like you,
it's a naming thing.
Well, I think I'm really glad to hear that, just because I hear a lot of the same titles on a regular basis, like songs that say "I love you," right? Those songs are cool. I mean, maybe you could say that they're necessary, but I'm probably not gonna listen to it because of that title. I don't know. Maybe I would, but I listen to a song 90% of the time based on the title. If the title is interesting, then that's what gets me into it. I mean, it's like title and artwork for me more than it is about like knowing what the actual content is. Because I think I'm, I don't know. I only know myself so well. But I'm stuck in my own perspective, and I know that perspective, isn't what I'm not is like a consumer in a sense that I think there's just a bit of like, I've got a bit of punk in me that I like going against the grain, and I like things that make me think like in a kind of like a deeper level, and I'm not by I mean, maybe everyone does. Probably everyone does. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but I just know those 2 titles, like, it's like, I want to hear those songs.
What do you think about this title? It's a song that I'm working on. It is "Again for the First Time."
Yeah, it makes me think, for sure.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to find the lyrics because they're on my phone somewhere.
So, are you singing these songs? Or are they...
This is going to be. This is all. So I write a lot of songs these days.
Okay,
like
cool.
Way a lot of songs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And spend a lot of time working on songwriting because that's something I would really like. That I'm working on getting back into.
How many songs would you say? Like what's your? Because you talked about structure, so I don't want to like. Can you hold that thought for a second? Let me go on a songwriting tangent for a moment.
Yeah. Which one?
Well, the song. Let's hold because I want to hear the lyrics, but I want to go on a songwriting tangent for a moment. Yeah. So, what is your? Because routine, I find very important in songwriting. Because I used to. So, like,
do you mean like routine or repetition?
Routine and repetition. So here's what I'm getting at is my 20-year-old self. My philosophy was that if a song comes to me in the moment, that's a song. Like that's it. So if I go that was awesome. So do you have perfect pitch?
No.
Because you just knew what key I was in immediately, though.
Yeah, I play the guitar.
Okay.
You're also playing guitar. I can see your hands.
Absolutely, yeah.
You guys can't see this, but we're sitting there.
Okay.
There's this nice little coffee table with a cute little candle. smells like wax.
Yeah, that candle that
Smells just like wax.
I didn't
It's amazing.
I didn't like
It's a scented candle.
It was
smells
supposed
like
to be
wax.
a stress relieving candle. It didn't smell good though.
I mean, it kind of neutralized something. It definitely neutralized the recording interface.
What if when I talked to Scarlett about getting a new one or whatever the problem is, and they're like, "Sir, do you have a stress relief candle in your studio?"
Should be like, that shit is stressing me out so hard right now.
Like,
At least then you know
it's in the clause, sir. You're not supposed to light stress relief candles.
Yeah,
we can't refund you.
We have a wax clause in there.
All right. Anyways, so here's my 20-year-old self. I did things in the moment, right? And I think it's, like I said, I learned the hard way. But what I noticed is, like, I would do, very simple things, and like that would be a song to me, like that 3-chord progression. I do have a song like that, and I'm happy with it. I don't regret it whatsoever. It is what it is. But like myself today in my 30s, I would not accept that as being like a completed song,
Okay,
so
this is funny. So it reminds me of the first song I ever wrote.
Okay,
Which for a long time I was like, I know it's bad.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
And later came to appreciate.
Yeah, right.
And I'm gonna play it now.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
See for 1,000 miles. I've got strength that can rip apart a tank. I've got ears that can hear your but then it also reminds me of this other song, which I would like to play now, which I wrote when I first moved. I was living in Berlin, and when I first moved there, this was a song which I wrote almost upon arrival.
Okay.
Thought that it was over, but it had only just begun. Ha ha, you thought it would be easier. Oh, child, you were so
It was really nice. Yeah, I really like it a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But it's like
a
fragment, but also, these days I can just be like, it's like, sure, it's a fragment, but it's also like, it can be a song.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, like, why the fuck not?
Yeah. So, but now I got this kind of idea. One of my first podcasts was with Dave Bloomfield. He goes by Starhead Boy. These are some of his pieces of art.
What's going on? These are cute.
Yeah, I agree.
I like these.
Yeah, he is the most prolific artist I've ever known in my life. Like, he puts out an incredible... Like, if you follow him on Instagram, I get inspired just by seeing him because he's made, like, at least 5 paintings a day, it seems like to me.
Wait, what's his name?
His name's Dave Bloomfield. But his moniker is Starhead Boy. But anyways, the point being is that he said to me, come up with 5 new ideas every day. And I was like, oh man, that's overwhelming for me. 5 new ideas. I was like, I'll do one. Do one new idea every day. And I started doing that. And so every day since then, I've sat down on the piano or guitar and just kind of tried to write in a different key. I'd never really written anything in B flat until a couple years. Well, I mean, I've probably written some stuff in B. I have written some stuff in B flat by accident because I was like in open E. Because I used to tune my guitar to open E all the time, and so I would just not really know what I was doing. It's just easier to play that way, and playing with a slide too. So anyways, now I'm like really thinking about the keys that I choose kind of thing. And so I was just using it as an exercise, and that exercise would almost always come up with a song idea, And then I could take that idea and take it way further and actually have parts and if I want to make it interesting, then I won't just stick in the key. I'll have some borrowed notes in there or whatnot. But so that's kind of how I'm thinking of that's how songwriting is going for me at the moment. It's like more of a everyday thing. I write something, and now I have a ridiculous amount of song ideas on my phone that's almost overwhelming. But the thing is I also have had a couple moments where I've like kind of gotten kind of in a kind of a dark place. Like I do deal with depression like on a fairly regular basis, especially when the weather kind of turns like this. It's dark most of the day. That's kind of tough for me. Like I like to see the sun. And so
I heard about this thing, the sun.
Yeah, it's nice. It's vitamin D is really, it's better when it's natural. But anyways, so sometimes I'll kind of go into this place that's kind of feels like a black hole, and there's it's hard to even get out. So it's nice to have those ideas, to have something to kind of keep the steam going.
Yeah, we've got really bad depression in my family, and the way that I talk about it with my mom is like the days that I can do stuff good, and if there's days I can't do things, I know the busy work that I can do.
Yeah.
That's like kind of part of it too, is like have the ideas and figure out like what you can do.
Yeah.
And the other days like figure out like is it editing, is it doing something mechanical and creative that is staring at the light bulb in your hand?
Yeah. Right.
Or on or the one on your desktop or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what is songwriting like for you? Because you said you've been coming up with a lot of ideas, right?
Songwriting, I mean, I'm in this funny spot where I'm reaching out for help these days. Uh-huh. One, just trying to write with anybody.
Sure.
And that's not the help I'm reaching out for. The help I'm reaching out for is actually like from people who are further down the paths that I think I want to go down.
Okay.
And asking them to just be like, what do you see over here?
Sure.
Because I know my stuff pretty, or at least my concept of myself well.
Yeah.
But it's good to have like these other eyes on it that have like this different experience.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And just really reaching out for help and sort of like understanding myself in this specific context as like a songwriter. Because like that's like the big change that I'm going through these days is instead of being an accompanist so much, instead of being a composer, instead of being a classical guitarist or whatever, like being an artist.
Yeah.
And also embracing like sort of like the greater totality of work, which that means, which spills into acting and dance. Like I'm in I guess like a contemporary dance group right now.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. It's also like a performance art type thing.
Okay.
and recognizing like that's a way to sort of, that helps provide that macro framework for me to live my life.
Yeah.
Instead of sort of having like all these different identities, which I try and have cohere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just kind of on that tangent, like that was also a really hard thing, like for me, that was like part of why I moved to Berlin, is because I needed to be somewhere else.
Okay.
Because over my life I realized I've just belonged to so many different communities in part, and no communities in full.
Okay.
And it was just like way too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So.
How do you feel like the music community is in Seattle?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. A lot of people doing a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was having a conversation with this guy who's in Kansas City.
Okay.
And because I kept on meeting all these people from Kansas City just on the street. And I was like, what's the deal? Because you guys look hella cool. And there's like a lot of bands going on, and people go out to see live music. Like that's the thing people are into still.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, in a lot of other places, it's just on the decline.
Right. Oh yeah. I would say, unfortunately, that's kind of the state in Seattle. I mean,
for sure.
With the amount of venues closing.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I think that's about to get a lot worse too.
Yeah.
But he had something to say. He's like, yeah, people look cool, and like there's a lot of music, but there's not really a vibe. And I was like, And then I was like, well, you know what? Actually, Seattle, for all of the random stuff that goes on it does kind of have a vibe.
It does. It totally does.
There's a couple of vibes. There's definitely like a few distinct ones I can think of.
Yeah.
But there's a vibe, which is like cool. It's just like, you know.
So he's basically like implying that Seattle has a vibe that Kansas City does not have. Is that?
Well, or rather that Kansas City doesn't have a vibe is what he was suggesting.
Yeah. But it seems to me that he's implying that Seattle does have it if he's in Seattle, right? I mean, why did he come to Seattle?
Oh, this guy was not here. I have a video chat that I do every Wednesday.
Gotcha.
This is the guy that was in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never played Kansas City. I have heard some stories. Well, maybe I think that was St. Louis, actually. Yeah, I just don't know much about Kansas City. I mean, I don't know much about it. I had a friend who lived there for a little while, and he loved it. He thought it was a really cool place, but maybe he brought some vibe there.
Could have been.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, I remember, so, like, coming back from that art handling job, I got to spend a little bit of time in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Because, like, stuff was so incredibly inexpensive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could get, like, a flat that was, like, 2 or 3, like, a sort of like a row house.
Uh-huh.
You could get a row house for, like, $500.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, it's unheard of.
Sure, yeah.
It's like the South Side. I don't know if it's changed. I assume that probably it got gentrified really hard. But that could just be that I'm in Seattle and that's just what I've seen happen.
There's some inflation that happened, but what are the industries there? What are industries in Missouri?
Well, at least in, like, St. Louis, like, they got Anheuser-Busch's there.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
that was my high school choice.
Anheuser-Busch, you get beer instead. What?
Isn't Anheuser-Busch the don't they make Busch beer, do they not?
Oh, that was in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were meaning like a choice of which school to go to, and I was like, what?
No, that's like no, that would be great. That's like a God, what is that guy? That big Larry the Cable Guy, I think. Like I've not that I know his stuff, but I only know it because I was watching this.
Come on, Tennessee. It's okay if you're watching it.
Yeah. No, I know what it was. It was this. They had this special on Dolly Parton, which I do love. I think Dolly Parton's fantastic.
I put on one of her records to go for a run the other day. She's great.
Yeah,
I fucking love Dolly
totally
Parton.
is. Yeah, she's a great songwriter. I mean, speaking of like someone who's a great, who's like polished a craft. She's a really good songwriter. Anyways, like Hank Williams Jr. like was playing on, he played on her special thing. But they were mentioning that, like, Larry, the cable guy, had some joke, and he was like, I don't know, I'm going to botch this joke, but it was something along the lines of, like, what school did Hank Williams go to? And he didn't go to school. He drank beer.
Yeah, he did. I think he eventually figured out you're not supposed to get a tear in it.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I hear he took a crash course. Sorry, excuse me, wait for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Williams.
When you write though, how do you get started? Do you just...
I sing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without even playing anything?
Always.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So
if I start playing, I'll get myself into trouble real fast.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it like what was... Yeah, actually, check this out. I came up with, like, this really depressing song, and then this was, like, the thing I wrote immediately after it.
Okay.
I'll just play part of it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I died.
There's not much of a melody to it. Although I came up with the melody, it's just really hard to sing and do the thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But it's like... Na, 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 and so on. But always if I start with playing, man, I get myself in just like these problems because I try and think about everything like from a really super macro tonality and just see if I can keep making it a more and more macro tonality.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I end up with like these like great chords that I don't even know what to do anything with.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I like that. I think I'm gonna experiment with doing that. Sometimes I will I will have an idea in my head. A lot of times, like in traffic, I'll just start kind of like, because otherwise I will be in the worst mood. Like if if I let traffic like get to me and like care about it, which is ridiculous because there's thousands of other people that they're not happy either. So like why should I let that get to me?
Because they're asleep. behind
sure.
the wheel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Seattle drivers are the worst, man. Having driven a lot of places
sure.
all over the world,
Sure, yeah.
Seattle drivers
Yeah.
make me a special form of sad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've had the worst experiences I've had driving in all the states. Well, I've let's see. As far as like touring goes, I've done like 13 states, and the two worst were Denver and Washington. Yeah, those were the two worst.
Like our sister state too. That's
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know what's up with Denver, but I was really I just didn't know it could get worse than Washington, and then I was like, oh no, this is way worse.
What was worse about it?
Just it was just like people weren't. I don't know. It was like I don't know what they were doing. I just know that I almost got thrown off the road a couple. It wasn't just once. Like one time, I'm on alert, but then it happened like 2 or 3 other times, and then it's like everyone's slamming on their brakes to stop and create traffic. And it's similar to Washington, where then you get to the place where the wreck or whatever happened. It's just that they didn't move out of the way, which that's what you should do, or there's nothing really actually happening, or like everyone slows down because a cop's right there, which is so ridiculous to me. That cop isn't gonna get you if it's on the side of the road.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
not like, if anything, you should speed up because it's not gonna catch you.
There's probably not a second one.
No. Yeah, but I mean, if a cop has someone pulled over on the side of the road, he's not coming for you. He's got something going on.
At least
saying
here,
which it could be a she.
At least here, what I feel is like people try and be overly safe, but also like really the distinct vibe I get is that everyone is concerned they're in traffic with their boss.
Yeah.
Like that's like the vibe I get.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh no, I couldn't go even though it's my right of way, and I've been sitting here for like 12 seconds. I couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn. I'm going. Oh, geez, gosh. Oh, yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
Or like, someone pointed something out to me, which could apply for Colorado as well, or sorry, Denver.
Yeah, I should say Colorado.
Yeah, is that people are very stoned in both of these places.
Yes, they are.
Like, and that could be a lot of it. Is
I
that
think
they're
it could
just
be,
like real stoned out, just
right.
cruising.
Yeah.
You know,
It could be.
like they're tour from work, and
It could be, yeah.
they're feeling nice and toasty. So might as well just like
Yeah,
enjoy it.
I know. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I thought immediately when I was in Colorado and it happened in particular. I was like, oh, people are way more stoned here than they are in Washington. That's kind of what I thought.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up there, but I did grow up here.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right, yeah. What was it? We were going to get back to the lyrics of that song, right?
Yeah, this is a song I'm working on. Thought I'd share it with you.
I'm actually proud of myself for actually remembering that and pat myself on the back.
I'm very happy for you. Thank you. Also for bringing me back. Because, I thought about whether or not I would play this on the way over here. And then I was like, I'll just do it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so this song I'm working on, so we'll just call it a work in process in its current form. So if there's an issue, sorry guys, and thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Can I get a little bit more juice on the amp?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Take me out again to that street where we first met, way back to that day, and I'll be wiser now than then. I'll shine my old halo, and I'll share my peace of mind. Oh, when I see you again for the first time. When I last saw you, simple-faced in your old room, mortal and mundane, the moment still lasts for days. We both were out of costume. I finally got to see the real you, mortal and mundane. This feeling lasts for days. And I'll shine my old halo, we'll share some peace of mind. Oh, when I see you again for the first time, and I'll be brighter than the glow of all the landmines I ignored, and I'll turn them into stones on a road that leads us home. And I'll shine my old halo, and I'll share some peace of mind. Oh, when I see you again for the first time, and I'll shine my old halo, and we'll share some peace of mind. Oh, when I see you again for the first time.
That was really nice. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
And that's new? Is that new?
Yeah.
Cool.
I wrote that
Yeah.
last week, I think.
So, what are you're kind of doing open chords there?
Mm-hmm.
What are you,
So it's like a D over F sharp,
okay, cool. Yeah.
and then it's
Cool.
a G,
Yeah.
and then like a situation,
Yeah.
A major sus.
Is it the same thing as an A7 or no?
No, not quite.
Yeah.
So there's not a 7, it's just a D, and a C sharp.
A, D, C sharp. Oh, okay.
So it's like,
Oh, yeah. Nice.
like with the octave displacement. So it'd be like,
Yeah, sweet.
and then just I thought it would be nice for the chorus.
Yeah.
So that's a G chord.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
And then you got that A chord with the variation. So I just
Yeah.
just to kind of add some more texture
Oh, totally, yeah.
and imply it's a different harmony also at the same time. And then that is like the bridge chord.
Okay. Nice.
So it's like that G, but it's B minor.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I like it. It sounds really nice. Do you ever use open tunings?
You know, I'm just like good with standard. Like occasionally I'll like do like
Yeah.
a drop D
Yeah,
thing or whatever.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I don't know. It's like there's like plenty to do.
There is, yeah. Well,
I mean,
especially the way you're
could.
doing it is a unique way of doing it with those chords. I mean, you're like you said, like even the B minor is not. That's like a B minor first position. That has way more style to it than just the first position.
Well, and it's also like even like I guess like I'm like where like I spend a lot of time thinking about timbre, like a lot,
Okay, sure.
especially about partials and overtones these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that sounds very bright to me.
Yeah.
The exact same notes
Yeah.
sounds super dark.
Yeah.
True.
True. Very true.
Like so,
Yeah, and you get like the lower resonancy, and what sounded really nice with that amp.
Yeah, you got some nice gear here, my friend.
Yeah, I mean that the combination of that guitar and that amp is something special, but the way that you're playing those bass notes like really was nice. You were using the you were using the
Yeah, I've got the I'm assuming this is just the tail one, right?
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I thought originally I have a Washburn this Washburn why can't I'm starting to like lose my
thread
synapse like firing on a like it's starting to really slow down. Resonator. It's a Washburn resonator, and so it has a lipstick pickup, and I love that thing in that thing because the way the resonator kind of just is nasty with it. But with that, and I thought I would use the lipstick pickup more, but I actually find using the bottom pickup more. It's you mentioned brightness. It's a little too bright with the lipstick to me. I mean, it has its place, but two things I was thinking of too, because I want to like maybe go down the road of influences. So that one that you said you came up, you started writing a depressive song and then it tailed off into the other one, right?
Yeah, totally.
Right. Just the vibe of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels kind of not flamenco, but it feels kind of Spanish, right?
I feel like it's got a real Brazilian vibe.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I try playing it on that?
Portuguese.
Actually?
Yeah, please do. Yeah. I said Portuguese, which actually would be not be a cool thing to say to someone from Brazil, so I shouldn't say that.
They would get a laugh out of it. So like, I was hanging out with these Brazilians in Berlin. I was actually living with these Brazilians, and they were like, keep in mind, like our independence was like for for Americans, like we fought for independence.
Yeah.
And like the Brazilians absolutely did too, but like
Sure.
in some very different ways. Like one of the important details, which was different.
Can you? Yeah. Have something to use for my ADD.
Yeah. Something which is different for the Brazilians is like Brazil was essentially formed when the king of Portugal was like, you need to come back and run this country, and he was like, nah, I'm good, actually I'm just gonna stay here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is like a 12-string.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to play this thing.
It definitely needs some getting used to. The thing that I really like about it is it makes a 6-string feel so different when I get back to it when I've played that for a
little. Yeah, this is intense. But how did we get onto this? We got like some nice ADHD going on over here.
I know what it was. Well, I think it's partially that sounded awesome. I think it's partially because I taught taught someone to play Oyo Como Va today, and it has kind of like that the way of playing the three chords like. It's not even exactly like that, but
this is weird. You got like some of these are middle strings are like higher pitched than
yeah. What song is that?
Tangerine?
I think it's Tangerine. Yeah.
Alright. Remembering a summer's day. No. All that rubber plant stuff. I'm also, my synapse is also getting a little bit tired.
Yeah.
I been going since 6.
Yeah, that's...
At present, people listening, it is 10 p.m. and I have been on since about 6:30.
Goodness gracious, yeah. It's not been... I've been up since 7, so it's not... yeah. Where was I going? Oh, I know. Are you a fan of Jeff Buckley at all?
Yeah.
Just because you have a unique approach to chords, and he definitely had these like unique approach to like playing it diminished and the way he would kind of choose chords. Like he hardly ever played first position chords. I mean, the only song I can think of is that he starts is I think it's either Lover. Oh, that's what just that, whatever that one is. But, I can't remember what the second verse is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then he doesn't ever go back to that again. He starts out that way. Yeah, so I was just curious, like, what would you say are big influences for you?
Guitar-wise?
Or
musically? Yeah.
Musically.
Well, probably my grandpa. I feel like just because he played. He's like in like Western Swing Halls of Fame.
Oh wow! Okay, cool.
Eddie Darrell Haddock.
Yeah, nice.
So
it's a great name too.
Yeah, it was from Alabama. I mean, like it was his name.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess his friends called him Grizz.
Okay.
Yeah. So like that's obviously like so it's just kind of like somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then I was like a fan of my teacher before I got to like be one of his students.
Sure.
So Michael Nicolella is definitely like a huge influence.
Yeah. Is that the guy who played trumpet?
No. He's the classical guitarist guy.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, he was Cornish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And then let's see who else musically. Bjork is a huge hero for me. Yeah. And has been for a long time.
Yeah.
Gosh, I think about these like people who have been really formative, and how time has moved on, and like these days, and it changes so much with different things I'm trying to do. But probably like someone who like actually really like transcends a lot of those boundaries is Sia.
Sure.
I think she's an amazing musician, and her raw talent blows me away constantly. Okay. And also just like her generosity of like mind and spirit. And I think it is also very hard to be her.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I don't know. She's definitely a hero. And then who else? I feel like there's like some. Astor Piazzolla. He definitely was like a very big influence on me. Quincy Jones is like someone I look up to a lot. Yeah. I got to play for him once, and that was just was like a high point that I'll never like reach again. Yeah, right. Or maybe I will. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
And he did so many things that it's hard for any person to do.
Right. Yeah.
And that's very, very impressive.
Yeah, he had a pretty insane work ethic. To the point where he ended up like hurting his health, right?
Did he?
Yeah, he
Kind of.
crashed. Like he had pretty early in his life.
Yeah,
he was also chain smoking cigarettes. Like, and I don't. I mean, he really was chain smoking. And he was like he just in general, like he was working so much in the studio. He's writing an exquisite amount, and I was trying to think of like what interesting word can I use here, but he was also just like drinking a lot of Coca-Cola and Pepsi and stuff and chain smoking, and yeah, he like
great.
It does. That's heaven actually. He was in heaven, and heaven didn't want him yet, and so he had like a
return to sender moment.
I think he had like he had a brain aneurysm or a stroke or something along with stroke is basically a brain.
He had a car accident that I think caused him like a brain aneurysm where he had to stop playing trumpet.
Oh wow, yeah. So but anyways, he the amount of stuff that he did and has done is really unique and I think inspiring. It's also like you gotta take care of yourself. Though. I mean, you can't. You do. I think it's important for every artist to know that it is okay to take a break and get some rest and take care of yourself and I don't know, get a massage or something. Right?
Yeah, I like going for runs.
Yeah, runs are good for sure. Yeah, but I mean that in my opinion that's I mean I guess if you see that as taking care of yourself, which I definitely agree, but I just mean like when I think of running, to me that's like because I need to get some maybe negative energy out or something. That's why I do it. That's like what exercise is for me, is getting negative, aggressive energy that I don't want to have out. Right.
Going back to the heroes thing, I think that actually like some of my biggest heroes are actually like my parents.
That's awesome. That's a great.
Like they had a really hard hand dealt to both my primary parents, and they've just done a really exceptional job of trying and succeeding.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's like something that I think about a lot, actually. It's just how hard it must have been to raise me. Not that I was a hard kid. I was actually a really easy kid, but still, it's just like, I don't know, it's the same thing, just like, I mean, people who decide to become a parent, I think that's I think it's the hardest job you can do, and there's no guarantee that it's even going to work out. Actually, even today, I learned that one of my friends from high school, someone I spent, 4 years with, he passed away, I think, yesterday.
Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry.
And I was just thinking about his parents, and that's got to be that is I think my greatest fear is bearing my child.
Oh sure, yeah.
It's the most unnatural thing I can think of.
Do you have a child?
No.
Oh okay.
God, no, are you kidding?
Yeah. But you want to have one eventually.
Yeah, I mean, in concept, but it's hard for me to condone that behavior on my behalf if I can't ensure that they'll have at least air. Sure.
Yeah.
And that's not on the table anymore.
Yeah.
And it gets further from the table.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean that is definitely a concern, and there's actually been, one way to kind of deal with it is to kind of joke about it, but I just because someone we know took my daughter outside and she was breathe in that air, it's probably the last time you get to breathe it in or something like that.
Oh, good times.
That's pretty
Too soon?
dark.
Too soon?
Yeah, but I mean that's definitely a tough one. I mean the only the best thing I can do is just hopefully get close to what your parents did for you and do the best you can. And I really want to make my daughter independent. I want to make her a strong, independent woman. And I think if I can do that, then she'll be set. She's gonna be. She'll everything will come as it may, and she'll know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, actually. I guess like when you say that, what I hear is also like death, like learning how to like embrace death.
Sure.
Or like like a really deep unsustainability, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, because that's also like because, you know, and that's like the thing I think about is like, do you have a kid and do you allow them to not be obligated to whatever you think that they should do or should have or should become, you know? But then also, like, how do you separate that from, like, you know, I guess, like, I'm just hearing so much of my own, like, unconscious stuff in there of if you, I don't know, it's like, how do you enable them to be them?
Yeah. Yeah,
and how do you, you know, also, like, I guess it's like the values you raise them with of, like, you know, you should have to take care of the environment. Environment comes first.
Yeah.
You're just a person, and you're just one animal inside of it.
Right.
Maybe a pretty smart one, but still just one of them.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, she's gonna by default, and just like you're just like your parents, whether you or I like it or not. But the impression I get is you are proud of your parents, which I think is an awesome thing an awesome feeling, you know. Like,
yeah, they're amazing. I don't know how the hell they did it.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't understand how they did it.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to find out more and more of that.
Sure.
The mystery to the solution to that riddle which surrounds that enigma.
Yeah. Yeah, did you want to play something else?
Sure. What is going on? I've just got out my guitar and I think it's having a hard time with the temperature adjustment.
In a cold car for a moment. Yeah, I love that chord. That, what is that, F over G? No, it's C.
This one? Okay. Well, this song has a lot of it in there. Yeah. Alright, this song is called Trying to Be Free. Hard to be anything. It's even harder to be nothing. And I don't know if I'll make it. I don't know, so I fake it. I do my best, but I'm shy on confidence. Never wanted it, but now I need it to be more than broken. So here's to hoping, staring through a window, looking in on a life not meant for me. Feeling like a shadow stretched along on a cold and some hope to live with. So here's to hoping, staring through a window, looking in on a life not meant for me. Feeling like a shadow stretched along a cold and hollow street. And I go, shall I stay? Am I loved or washed away for all these years? I'm still fighting to be free. I'd be a ray of light, not just a ray of heat. Try and be a little wise, get me off of my feet. Try and be a little more than I ever thought I could be. Try and be someone I'd want to take me seriously. Staring through a window, looking in on a life not meant for me. Feeling like a shadow stretched along a cold and empty street. And I go, shall I stay? Am I loved or washed away for all these tears? I'm still fighting to be free. For all these tears, I'm still fighting to be free. For all these tears, I'm still fighting to be free.
Sweet, yeah. It's a lovely song. I like it.
Thanks. I want to do one last one, and then maybe we can call it good.
Sounds good, yeah.
All right. So this tune is called Tumbleweed. It's funny how mistakes I've made chase me around like an angry ghost. Well, I guess that's just the way things go. Feeling like a piece of straw blowing down some boulevard, making my way towards Santa Monica. Feeling like a tumbleweed, I go wherever the wind takes me, making my way towards Santa Monica. I've grown and I'm tired, I don't guess I retired from keeping up the score. For all that I've been through and all I've seen, you know you mean so much to me. You mean so much to me. I'm feeling like a piece of straw blowing down some boulevard, making my way towards Santa Monica. Blowing like a tumbleweed, I'll go wherever the wind takes me, making my way towards Santa Monica. Living like a tumbleweed, I'll go wherever the wind takes me, making my way towards Santa Monica. Living like a tumbleweed, I'll go wherever the wind takes me, making my way towards California, Santa Monica.
Nice. Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, thanks for sharing those, man.
Yeah,
That's
thank you so
beautiful.
much. Thanks for having me, Wes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a
You're a
pleasure.
talented guy.
Well, thanks. I'm trying. I'm trying to do something.
Well, sure, yeah. But I mean, I guess since one of the things we talked about was manifestation, and you're talking about reaping and sowing early on, I feel like if you keep going in this trajectory and keep writing the songs in the caliber that, then things are gonna happen. You know, I don't know if you necessarily, because when we were first talking, you were mentioning how you're kind of finding your way and what is it exactly that I want, and I think that's something that's important for us to all find as artists is. Are we making art just to make art? And if so, that's totally okay. But are we making it to get to a certain point to where we're, we can and not live check to check and not have to live hand to mouth kind of thing, and have a bit more of security. The thing is no matter what, the pathway of being an artist is really never secure. No matter like how you look at it. we don't necessarily have to jump into like a conversation about this. This could be kind of a short answer, but I was just curious about, how do you feel about art and competition? Do you think they go together? Like, do you think art is a competitive thing? Because, you know, I like to have this conversation just because I do think competition can be healthy, you know? And it's absolutely not the same as sports. It's not like you actually win, unless like you're thinking of it as like the Grammys or something. But I'm personally not like a big fan of, you know, awards for artists. I mean, I think it's fine and good, and I applaud anyone who gets them. I just don't, you know, I don't know that it's like really a thing. I think if you create, that's the award. I mean, that's...
Yeah, so I was talking with this guy who had found some serious success.
Okay.
And he was saying, and he framed it in a way that I thought was very constructive and helpful, is that there's certain types of work which are competitive and certain types of work which are not.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
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 You know, and like, yeah, it's like, you know, to what is the purpose of this thing that you're trying to create?
Sure, yeah.
How do all the parts work together,
Right.
and what are the byproducts of it?
Yeah.
You know.
I've recently shifted my philosophy a little bit into just based off a couple of things. One, I learned about this post-impressionist artist named Paul Cézanne, and he really did make art to make art. I mean, to the point where at the last 20 years of his career, he refused to even like do any art shows. He just made art in his art studio. And he was like, if you want to come see it, you can come see it in my little dingy studio.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting it in any, I'm not out there to get recognition. And he was like, even when he did...
Which is the thing which is so easy to do when you have recognition and money.
Exactly. So that's the thing. That's the thing that's amazing about him, is that he got recognition and he got like a lot of praise. Because he's in line with Van Gogh and Edgar Degas and a lot of those guys.
For sure.
And he was really the only one who was just like, I don't want anything to do with this. You know, like as far as the success aspect, and that it just made me think that, like maybe it is okay. I think because my philosophy prior to that was you kind of make art to relate with other people. And I think that by default that's what happens. But him, and then I also listened to this interview with Josh Homme, and he was talking about
From Queens of Stone Age?
Yeah. He was talking about how his like early band, like they were just making music, Caius, they would just make music and just listen to their own stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, that was, he just didn't understand, like he would go on tour with other bands who were like, oh, we don't listen to our own stuff, we hate it actually, we're sick of playing these songs, and he's like, I don't get that. I love listening to my stuff. You know, I know Prince supposedly only listened to his own stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I think Usher is actually the same way.
Yeah, so anyways, I guess what I'm getting at is now I'm shifting into this place where I'm trying to, maybe not, I don't want to say trying, like I am experimenting with making music for myself, like that I want to listen to my own stuff, because I think the past me was like, I would kind of make stuff in the moment, as I mentioned to you before, and that would be it, is like move on. But now I want to spend more time on crafting a song to an extent. I mean, I don't want to go down a road like 4 years and I still haven't completed a song. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah,
but
I'd
happens. Yeah, and that that does happen a lot of times. Like I'll record an idea on my phone and come back to it maybe in that amount of time, right? But what I'm getting at is like really work on the craft of a song instead of write, move on, and write stuff that I want to listen to the rest of my life, you know, and I think that's very possible and doesn't have to be like an overwhelming thing. So anyways, that's kind of how one thing, but I think as far as competition goes, just to wrap that part up, I kind of, in a way, I think competition like fuels me, and it's a silly thing that doesn't really matter, and it's not even real, because I wouldn't tell anyone. It's not like, you know, we show up and we play a game against each other. It's more just like I'm inspired by what you just shared with me, so I want to like up my game in writing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I think.
Yeah.
That's how I think of competition. Is like, oh man, I gotta play guitar more. I gotta get better. I'm gonna look at this thing differently now.
Yeah, the thing which kind of doesn't sit well with me about the competition metaphor is that it implies that there's a limited economy.
Okay.
Or that there's that it's, you know, in contrast to somebody.
Sure.
Or context rather of somebody.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's ultimately the most helpful.
That's a really good point.
Because it doesn't matter how good you are or how bad you are.
Sure.
What matters is how happy you are with what you're able to make.
Very true. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think that's also like the really thing. It's just like it comes down to integrity.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're like in integrity with your own self.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's going to matter. Like,
very true.
That was like the really funny thing with like when that gig came around, playing with Grace Love for Quincy Jones. It was just like where I was at, like my integrity was in a funny spot, and that was like about a month before I moved to Berlin. Okay. And it was like like I needed a lot of change because I needed to see some fresh perspective. But yeah, the something that the metaphor which someone has brought up recently in a context similar to this is of collaboration.
Sure. Yeah.
And how it's like it's really that what it is like when you see these things, it can inspire you to realize more of your potential. Totally. And that's kind of the beautiful thing of like knowing people and being able to reach out.
Yeah.
And essentially like having friends who are pursuing work that's, you know, similar or whatever to yours. I mean, like Cezanne, like it's a good approach. It's also like the thing that's so much easier to do once you've made it.
Sure. That's a good point.
Because then you have the resources to do so.
Right. Yeah. You've got a bit of capital now. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can. Yeah. And if you had any wonder about whether or not you were good, I mean, the world's out there. Yeah. In his case, even during his lifetime, to be like, you're great.
Yeah.
You know, so it's cool. But you know, I think that what I feel like I see a lot is a lot of people trying to emulate success and emulate things or feelings which those successful things give them. Yeah. And it's important not to emulate those things, but to find them within yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're probably going to end up with more or less the same tools in the long run as those people. Yeah. But they're not always going to be the same. And you have to manufacture the skills so that you can actually draw yourself forward. Yeah. And that's what I would. Yeah. That's my hope for people, is that they'll do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if everyone could think of it that way, I think that's where I want to shift my thinking to. You know, that's what I'm. I mean, this year for me has been, the whole goal for my year was to collaborate. And what has happened is I started 2 bands and released 2 records, and with those bands, and then I started this podcast. And you know, I don't know, it was just like a thing that I executed, and it's reaped enormous benefits, not in like the success aspect, but just for the aspect of like having like more genuine conversations like this, where like you eventually kind of forget there's a thing recording, you know? Like it takes a little while, but there's that, but also just it's really fun to be able to pick someone's brain and see, you know, because I keep saying, I'm stuck in my own perspective, so getting another perspective is really, really helpful, and I think everyone kind of needs to be doing more of that, because now I'm going to go into like a little bit of a political realm. We're so divided as far as that goes. And so I think, and I don't mean we, I mean like the as far as the political parties go, and that
Are you trying to say that I'm divided from you right now, bro?
No, I'm not. But anyways, back to the point. I really appreciate you doing this, and I mean, if I can, I want to be supportive. Oh, last thing. Why don't we wrap it up with what would be a good place for people to find your music as well as the upcoming shows?
So a lot of information is on my website, which is my name, which I will spell out for you now, because myname.com is also what do you call it? My Instagram, Twitter, etc. handles, and is the best way to find me on Patreon, which is where you can get all types of material from me.
Yeah.
And you spell my name MICHAUDSAVAGE. So you can at me, you can .com me, or you can me.com. I don't really quite know how that will go, but anyhow, that's me. Wes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And you've done some stuff. It's really cool that you know Grace Love too, because she's wonderful. I played a show with her once, and it was a really cool experience. And she's been nothing but kind to me. I actually made a music video for her one time.
Really?
And thankfully she's into it. I was kind of, there's like a, when you when you kind of make art for someone else, I just wanted to do it. I basically just like, can I make a music video for the song? It was like, it was the bonus track on one of her EPs. It was really fun. And she likes it, so that makes me happy. And she has a kid now, so I want to see if we can have like a play date sometime.
Oh, you should, yeah. Milo's a cutie.
Yeah.
We've got a show coming up. I'm playing with her on her album release in January.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, which I think is January 17th, I believe.
Okay.
It's either 17th or the 18th.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And
Where
it'll
is
be
that?
at the Fremont Abbey.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's a great venue.
Yeah. And then in terms of upcoming shows, let me look. I'm playing with Gabby.
Okay. Cool.
In December, we're doing a So Far Sounds gig.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Aline and I are doing a couple of those this month.
Nice.
And I'm really excited.
Great.
Have you done those before?
No, I've attended one.
Yeah.
It was chiller than I thought. I really had a hard time with how they got all this VC and they still don't pay bands, but I also see some upsides to the other things which they do. So.
Sure. Yeah, it's cool to play, like, Fremont Abbey. I played with, I accompanied Jess Pillay. She played, and it was almost, like, eerie to the point how quiet it was in there. Like, I kept kind of, cracking jokes. I mean, my go-to is always, like, the water's really good here. It's always my go-to in it. And so...
so that'll be the 14th of December at 20.
Okay, sweet.
Which I don't know if you can buy tickets for or not, or if it's supposed to be a secret address.
What you can do, you go to So Far Sound's website, and then you can sign up that way. That's how they do it. It's because it's supposed to be secret.
Whoops. Maybe you can edit that out.
I didn't catch it, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess somebody could go back and find what that is. Here, we'll delete it. I don't know. I mean, does it really matter? Maybe.
Nothing really matters at all, my friend. We're dead, and now let's party. Let's party. I'm so tired and so I think I might have to leave, 'cause I can barely think in my own head. Oh no, I can't put two thoughts together, so I must bid you adieu, my brother.
Bye-bye.